Alright guys, so I actually thought this was going to be a pretty quick video, and it turned out it took me a lot longer to do than I had planned. So the whole goal of this video is to show you my Serena gun build, and it focuses around the Ancient Knight and the Restored Relic. Now I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to you about it now, so let's just hop into the video. So there are a lot of different builds out there, and I wanted to go a different direction with Serena, but still have her feel impactful on the battlefield. And that's what we've done with this build here. Now the devs showed her off with Restored Relic, and I do like that whole AC 130 feeling, but I wanted to make sure she had a weapon that was able to put in a lot of damage when it came to the bosses. And for me, that's Ancient Knight. This gun really synergizes well with her kit, and it's one of the few guns in the game that I think it's worth investing into multi-hit with. So with the build I'm getting ready to show you, you will be able to do general mobbing and general killing, and you'll also be able to take the exact same build and roll it over into the new intercept battle and still get around a 12 to 15 second kill on the boss. And that's with the gun that I'm using, which doesn't have the perfect roll on it. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the Restored Relic. We're just going to speed through this. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of Restored Relic builds in the past, and this is what I'm actually using for this particular build. Now you can see here my core rolls aren't the best, but it does work for what we're doing. We are running 2 fire rate mods on this and 3 fire attack mods. That's a little bit different than what you might see, but at the end of the day, this isn't about burning our load really fast, and it's about just being able to sustain damage on the battlefield. And because this isn't being used on Glay, that extra fire rate just goes to waste. So we're really going to capitalize on putting out as much fire damage as we can. For the roll, we are going to run crit damage, crit rate, explosive attack, and fire attack on this weapon. Now, when we get into the mods, this is what we're currently looking at. We are going to run Rifling Reinforcement and Action and Reaction just for that base firearm attack damage. After that, we're going to run 3 crit mods on here to help with our crit rate and our crit damage. Moving past that, we're going to be looking at increasing the radius or the blast radius, and we're going to be using 2 separate mods to do that. We're also then going to tack on some additional fire damage, and then because this gun is a little bit ammo intensive, and we're not fully building into Serena's ability to just generate ammo out of the blue, we are going to go ahead and use the special round charge improvement here. This is just going to help us get some ammo and keep us shooting the gun. So now that we've looked at Restored Relic, let's really look at the crowning jewel of this build. Now, there are a few things you need to note about this build. We are building into the Ancient Knight's fire damage. This is a fire gun, and we are going to use that, especially when it comes to the Sigma sector. So because of that, this gun will not be perfectly rolled to take out the new Tormentor, but we are still going to be able to make it work. And it's only going to require 2 mods to be changed in the actual roll. So based on that, this is actually a very low investment gun compared to making multiple rolls of the same gun to be able to do fast kills. While this isn't going to be breaking records like ATAMs or the Last Dagger, this gun does have a lot more uses than just burning out intercept bosses. And because of that, I think that it is a solid gun and one that you will want to use. So for this gun, we are going to run 2 fire rate cores. As you can see, one of mine is absolutely abysmal. If you have a higher one, your time to kill, especially on the bosses, is going to go up by quite a bit. We're then using 2 firearm attack mods, and then we are finishing it up with a fire attack because we are capitalizing on the fire attack on this weapon. Outside of that, for the roll, we are going to go with fire attack, firearm attack, bonus damage versus Colossus, and weak point with this particular weapon. Now, when it comes to the roll in this weapon, we are going to build into the multi-shot. We're going to start out with action and reaction. We're going to use rifling reinforcement, and then we're going to use charge amplification here. Because we're not doing crit damage, this is just going to give us more base damage, and we always like to see that. Outside of that, we are going to look at 2 fire mods. We're putting a fire rate up on this, and then the last 2 main mods we're going to be looking at are our gold ones. We are going to use Firing Fiesta for this weapon. This is what's going to allow us to really burst out damage in short windows, and that's going to be crucial not only for Colossus, but just for general boss damage out on the field. Now, this build won't work without a perfect kit. We need additional items. So we're going to go ahead and go over the Reactor as well as our components and then hit Arche Tuning. For the Reactor, what I'm looking at on here is a skill cost. We want to really be able to manage our skill cost because this isn't only a bossing build. We're actually going to use this for a lot of things, and her skill cost is something that has to be managed. Outside of that, you can go with skill duration up or skill cooldown, depending on which one you like. Either one is going to work. It just depends on what you have. This does not need to be a matching Reactor, as you're not really going to be doing any damage with your skills. So when it comes to our components, we're actually going to be using two different component sets. The first one is going to be the Ascended Armory set. We really like this set for two reasons. Reason number one, skill cost. We need that skill cost down, especially if we're going to be planning on flying across the battlefield, and that is what we want to do with this build. We really want to live in that air power fantasy. The other thing that's good about this is it has a lot of max HP, and her HP scales her damage on her 4. We're going to talk about that when we look at her build, but just know that's very important. So ideally, what you're going to want for the substats for this is max HP and MP recovery out of combat. I don't have MP recovery out of combat. That's why this particular component is flagged as a D component, because it's not really that good, but it works for what we need. When it comes to your sensor, you're going to want max MP and MP recovery in combat. That's basically a staple for almost anybody that uses MP in the game right now, and that's really what you're going to want to build around here. When it comes to your memory, we are dipping into the Annihilator set here. We chose the Annihilator set because it has better main stats, and we're going to be using those, so we chose the Annihilator over the Hunter. This set will increase our duration, which is a great thing, especially when it comes to us being able to use our 4 longer. The substats you're going to want here are going to be MP recovery and then defense. You can see here my MP recovery isn't the best, but we do make it work. For your processor, we're going to be looking at, really it doesn't matter. Your processor is only going to have shield on it, and we're not scaling her shield into HP, so we don't really care. Just have something on here. All right, guys, so when it comes to your Arche Tuning, this is the board that I like. It does make use of some of your HP scaling, but it doesn't fully make use of all of it. There are a couple different ways to look at this, but one of the reasons that it took me a while to get this video out today is because I really tested this build. And while you get similar times building into HP versus building into multi-shot, I feel like this is just generally more consistent because you get constant bonus damage. Now, if you want to change this up, that's entirely up to you. Here is what it looks like if you want to try the HP build. I would say it doesn't hurt to go ahead and just save both of these skill trees and switch back and forth between them and find which one feels more consistent to you when it comes to doing damage in general. You can use both of these builds, whether you're doing Colossus fights or you're just doing general gameplay with Serena. When it comes to the Inversion Reinforcement, this is the Inversion Reinforcement setup that we like to use when it comes to bossing. Aerial maneuvering is just going to give us multi-hit chance when we're in the air, and that's something that's going to happen when you play Serena. Outside of that, we are going to use strike point amplification. What this does is when we get multi-hits with a firearm, we get bonus weak point damage, and this is great because that's what you should be aiming for when you are fighting a Colossus. Now, when you're doing general mobbing, you will want to change up one thing. You are going to go ahead and knock off the strike point amplification because it is not that important when you're getting just general kills. You are going to want to switch that out with selective neurostimulation. This is going to help with any MP issues you have when you're doing general mobbing. If you find that you are just not having issues with MP, then I would switch out selective neurostimulation or Arche circulation tactic. And ideally, this is going to reset the cooldown or at least speed up the cooldown on your 4, because there is still a disparity between your cooldown and the duration. And this will help keep you with 100% uptime if you are trying to use that skill, which you should be when you are mobbing. Now, before we jump into the modules, we're going to look at a couple different things in her kit because you really need to understand her kit to understand why we're making the decisions we are. For Serena, she has a passive, and this passive essentially gives her a lot of additional perks and damage as long as she is in the air. So our goal is to keep her in the air as much as possible. The goal of this build is twofold. We want to keep her in the air and we want to keep her damage up. One of the main ways to keep her damage up is with her 4. Her 4 procs a skill called Redemption's Judgment. If you're in the air and you use your 4, you get this ability. What this is going to do is this is going to give you additional AoE damage on your firearm attack. Outside of that, that additional damage is going to scale based on your max HP. So our goal here is to get our max HP as high as we can. We are going to be trying to use our Restored Relic for general mobbing, and Restored Relic is very ammo intensive. So one other thing you're going to want to do with this build is you're going to want to try to use your 1 whenever you can. Your 1 has the ability to generate rounds randomly. So we're going to be using this to try to help us get our ammo back. Between this and the new fellow bringing you ammo, you should not have too much of an issue maintaining ammo to keep putting damage down on the field. So now that you understand the kit, we're going to look at the build. So the goal of this build is to try to get our duration as high as we can. We want to get our cooldown as low as we can, and we want to get the cost to stay in the air realistically as low as possible. After we've achieved those things, we're really going to stack on damage, and we're going to do that by cranking our HP up and then using our last mod slot for shot focus, which is just bonus damage. So if you're done with the build guide and that's all you needed to know, that is everything for the build. We are going to go over a couple different things here. I'm going to show you just how to use Serena, and I'm also going to show you how to kill the intercept boss, because there is a little bit of nuance to it and it takes a minute to get used to. So if you've never used Serena, the first thing you're going to want to do is pop her 2. Once you have her 2 popped, you just jump and that will put you in the air. You don't stay there forever, you just fall very slowly. After your initial jump, you get 1 more jump, and then no matter how many times you hit space, you will not jump and you will fall to the ground. If you want to reset your jumps, hit your 3, and that's going to reset and give you 2 jumps back. So when you're trying to move around with Serena, you're just going to jump in the air and use your second jump. And then you are going to use your 3 and hold the button down in the direction you want to go. Essentially, that is going to move you around in the air. After you use your 3, feel free to jump so you're not just using your 3. But this is the essential way to move around with Serena. You can do this for as long as you need to and keep yourself in the air. One thing I do want to point out is there is a little bit of movement tech you can do with Serena. So when you get in the air and you air grapple, if you fling yourself off the end, you actually keep your momentum. This is a good way to traverse large areas of the map because it is faster than flying or running. Once you jump at the end of it, you do lose all of your momentum, so do keep that in mind. And that's basically everything you need to know when it comes to Serena and how to keep her in the air. I get a lot of questions about it, especially with people who are new to her that have trouble just trying to figure out how to maneuver with her. She does take a little while to get used to, but once you get used to her, she actually feels pretty fluid. My only real complaint is that I wish she fell slower and her jump was a little bit less high, because it can make it hard for you to maintain target when you're trying to shoot at things. Alright, so when it comes to the Colossus fight, there are a few things you need to know. Your goal with the Colossus fight is to trigger Firing Fiesta and to use your 4. So when you spawn into the fight, go ahead and pop off a few rounds. That way, when you reload, you do get Firing Fiesta. Once you can get out of the barrier, run up towards the Colossus, jump up in the air, and then right before you can hit him, go ahead and pop your 4. This is going to go ahead and get you all of that bonus damage that we're working towards. As soon as you're done with that, dash to your left so you have a good shot at his right shoulder. Once you have a good shot at his right shoulder, just unload on it. Your goal here is to put in as much damage as humanly possible, and hopefully you're a better shot than I am. Now, you're going to blow through your rounds very, very quickly. When that happens, don't reload, just dash again. Your goal here is to dash every time you need to reload, because dashing will reload your weapon. And then all you want to do is just dash around the boss and keep shooting him in his weak spots until he dies. Once you get good at this, you can get between a 10 and a 15-second kill pretty consistently, and that's with my gun. If your gun has better rolls on the fire rate and more Colossus damage, you might even be able to get faster kills than that. Alright guys, and that's it. This was my Serena weapon build guide. My goal with this build was to give you something that you can use everywhere, and to do something other than have you belly flopping all over the map. Between the Restored Relic and the Ancient Knight, you can really be an oppressive force on the battlefield, and you have enough tools in your toolkit that you can take care of any situation that comes up, and you will be impactful and your team will know you're there. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite Serena build is. Let me know if there's something in my build that you think that I could tweak to make it even better. If you guys are enjoying the content, definitely come over and watch us on the live channel. We stream 5 days a week and we're always doing something fun over there, and we'd love to have you hang out. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.